Welcome, everyone, to the Chasing Joy Show. I am Arlett Hartie, blogger and joy strategist from chasing-joy.com, which is a lifestyle blog and brand um, geared towards helping women make happiness a priority in their life, specifically before they become unhappy. I like to call it working on your bounce back factor, also known as resilience. Just building up some key foundational areas that can help you bounce back when life knocks you down, because it's not smooth going all along. So that's what Chasing Joy is all about. And this is the Chasing Joy Show, and I'm your host. And I like to bring on inspiring and encouraging people, mostly women, who exemplify what it is to chase joy, or I should say, and or who have an interesting perspective on life that I think we could all learn from to help us chase joy a little better. So with that, I'm going to ask my guests for tonight to turn on their cameras and their microphones, and I will welcome Dr. Carol Cantu and Dr. Faith Hartie to the show. We're still waiting for Dr. Faith. There she is. I think you have to unmute. Let's see. There he is. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
So I'm going to formally introduce you in a moment, but before I do that, we're going to jump right into my favorite icebreaker, which is called Two Truths and a Lie. So I hope you thought of your 3 statements, and I don't know who wants to go first.
I'll go.
Okay. So you're going to share with us your 3 statements.
Yes.
2 of them will be the truth and 1 is going to be a lie. And myself and those who are watching in our virtual studio audience on Facebook, we're going to try and guess which one is the lie.
Okay. In my life, I have had the chance to perform before an audience. And when I say audience, I don't mean my family. I mean, at least, 200 people. I've had the chance to perform on African drums. In my life, I have had the chance to perform before an audience, not family, playing the piano. And the third, in my life, I have had the opportunity to perform before an audience, not my family, same criteria, on the guitar.
Okay. So what I'm learning is that you have performed. That's the first thing. So I'm going to repeat them back.
You think the whole thing is a lie?
No, because 2 have to be true. So clearly you're a performer. So I'm going to repeat them back. So for those who are watching the show and our virtual studio audience, we are talking through Zoom and they are watching through our Facebook group. So there's a slight lag. So I'm letting them think about it, and I'm going to repeat, and then we'll see what people are saying in the comments. So you said you have had the chance to perform in front of a live audience, not your family, like 200 people, either on the African drums, piano, or guitar. And only
two are true.
Right. 2 of those are true, and 1 is the lie. So we're going to guess the lie.
Yes.
So what do you guys who are watching through Facebook, what do you guys think? We have a few people watching. Hi, Miss Lily. Miss Lily watches every episode. I don't think she's missed a single show through 2 seasons. Okay. You guys let me know in the comments which you think is like. Marilyn says, my guess looks so familiar.
You think so?
Yeah. Maybe she's seen you somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Janice is watching. She says hello. So one person guesses that the third one is the lie. The third one was the guitar.
Okay.
Another guesses that the first one is the lie, the African drums. And then another person guesses that the second one. So we have guesses on all three. My guess, I'm going to say that the guitar is the lie. So let's say, you guys want to make any more guesses who are watching in the audience before Dr.
I want to
Cantu
know
tells
what
us?
Faith and Sheree think.
Yeah, what do you
Okay,
think
what you think?
is the lie?
Um, I guess I'll go with the guitar
The
as
guitar.
the lie.
Okay.
Um,
All right. So which one is it?
The African drums.
The drums is a
The
lie.
drums.
Wow.
I have.
all the time you spend in Africa, you
That's
never
why I
play
said they
drum.
wouldn't think. They wouldn't think it's the drums because I've been in Africa for 7 years, and
Yeah,
my house is full of drums.
yes,
So you would think and plus that's
yeah.
easy. That's
You
easy.
would
You don't have
think
to know. But I've played the piano
I am
and I
surprised.
played the guitar.
I never knew that you to play the guitar. That is brand
Yes.
new information today.
when did you play the guitar?
I played it in talent shows at school, and I
Oh,
also played at church.
Oh,
oh,
wow.
And I played the piano at school in Africa, and I played the piano at church.
Wow.
okay.
But the drums, I've played them, in the house, but never before an
Out
audience.
an audience.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
Dr. Hartie, you're next. Give us your 3 statements.
Okay. In my life, I have traveled to Spain. In my life, I have visited 4 continents. And in my life, I have traveled with models to New York, to the Essence magazine building, and sat with Susan Taylor, who was the editor-in-chief.
All right. These are hard too. So let me repeat them back and correct me if I messed them up. So the first statement was that you have traveled in your life, you have traveled to Spain.
Yes,
The second one was in your life, you have traveled to 4 different continents.
yes,
And the third one is in your life, you have traveled to New York, to the Essence building, where you sat with Susan Taylor, who was
yes,
the editor of
in
Essence,
chief. Yes.
editor-in-chief of Essence. Okay. So the guesses we have, Miss Lily says, what a surprise about the African drums. All right,
Yes,
so yeah. So we have that the third one is the lie. That's sitting with Miss Susan Taylor at the Essence building. We have 2 people saying that traveling to 4 continents, 3 people saying that traveling to 4 continents is a lie. So that's like the majority that people think that the continents is a lie. This is tricky because my first instinct is that the last one is true because you went into so much detail. But then that could be the lie, and you're going into detail to trick us. So I'm going to say, I don't know, because in 4 continents, these days it's pretty easy to hit 4 continents because people go to Mexico a lot. If you've been to Spain, that's already one continent. Shane is watching. He says the second one is the lie, the 4 continents. All right, I'm going to go with the majority. The majority seems to think that traveling to 4 continents is the lie.
They're right.
Oh, we got it. We don't usually get it.
Well, at least I made you think about it.
Yeah, it wasn't easy though. It wasn't easy. All right.
I could have done that one, and the lie would have been the Essence magazine and the models.
Okay.
I would have been to the continents, and I studied in Spain.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, wow.
I could have used the same ones. We would have got.
So
maybe that's why we get along so well, because we share those things.
Yeah.
Well, you guys share a lot of things in common. So let me formally introduce you to the show. So tonight we are talking to Dr. Carol Cantu in the red and Dr. Hartie in the white. They are both doctors of education. They both spent many years as teachers and also administrators. They are both officially published authors. Dr. Cantu has been a publisher on 5 different publications, including 3 books. And Dr. Faith, her book just came out, and I have it right here. Dr. Faith on Faith. We all have it, right? Somebody do a screenshot of that, right? Dr. Faith on Faith, the Realities, that just came out like this week.
Yes.
So they're both published authors. They both were married for many decades, and they both have 1 daughter.
Yes.
And they
similarities.
Yes, so many things in common. And you're both very active in your church and in your faith, which is what we're going to talk a bit about tonight. Dr. Cantu did missionary work for many years, and she teaches Sabbath school that I attend most weeks on Saturday mornings at Bladensburg Seventh-day Adventist Church. And Dr. Faith has been on her board of trustees at AME Union Church. So in addition to all that, they're both my aunties. So I'm going to stop saying doctor, because that takes a lot of effort to not say Aunt Carol and Aunt Faith. They're both my aunts. And in addition to just the joy I get from being able to share my platform with my family, who does so many inspiring things, the main reason that I wanted my aunts to be on the show comes from a conversation that happened during my brother's Bible study. So my brother Shane, who is in the comments, he is pastor at the Cross Christian Center, and he has a Bible study on Tuesday nights, which you're welcome to join. You can post the link in the comments or the info.
And Reverend Shane is in the book.
He's in the book. So we were having a conversation during a Bible study several weeks ago, well, probably even months ago now. And I don't remember the specific question, but Shane asked us something about love, I believe it was. Or I think it was, when did we know God loved us, or something like that. And Aunt Carol answered, and she said something to the effect of, that wasn't something that was really discussed in that way when she was coming up. So that sparked a question in my head. Well, what else wasn't discussed or was discussed? And since I do so much conversation around, building resilience and joy and self-care, I was like, well, I wonder, were they talking about this kind of thing when she was coming up? And actually, through her peers, her generation talk about these things now. So I was like, well, I want to know, so maybe other people want to know. And that kind of what gave me the idea to invite them on the show, just to get a perspective from the generation ahead of me on all the things that we talk about related to Chase and Joy. So that's why I wanted you guys here. And you're obviously extremely qualified. I just went over all your accolades. And I thought that the faith conversation was very important. I've mentioned on other shows that when I started to transition chasing joy from just being like this personal, private thing that I was doing for myself to more of a business and a brand that I was sharing with other people. One of the things I did was I looked back over, at this point, Chasing Joy had been around several years already. So I looked back over the personal development work that I had done, and I started to share those things with other people, and they fell into 6 categories that I call the pillars of faith. The pillars of joy. And they were they were gratitude, giving back, goals, healthy relationships, self-care, and faith. Those were the areas that I had grown in. And as a result of growing in all those areas, my life as a whole was healthier and happier. And I had more resilience so that when things weren't going so well, I didn't get knocked down quite as hard and I could bounce back quickly. So faith is a key component of that. And faith has been very instrumental in your lives and important into your work and your books. And I think everything about you. So that's kind of why I wanted you guys on the show. So
Well,
that's
thanks
my
for inviting
first,
me.
yes. And thank you for joining, especially thanks for being on camera at 10 o'clock at night. Because, I have to fit the show in around the little one's schedule. But yeah, so kind of back to what made me first think about it. Do you guys, your peers, your generation, even discuss things related to like having a happy life or self-care or resilience? And if you do, what do those conversations look like?
Well, I'll start. Yes, the answer is yes. Much of my generation, especially my generation, because many of us are retired. We've lived a life of employment and marriage and family. And so now we're at a relatively new level in our lives. All the time that we lived from the cradle up to say 65, when the government says you're qualified to retire, it was kind of mapped out by society what you're going to do at each level from the cradle up. You're going to go to preschool, and you're going to go to kindergarten, and you're going to go to school, and you're going to go to school, and you're going to go to school, and you're going to eventually, hopefully, get a job after all that school. Then you work for, say, 20, 30, 40 years, and you come to this magical word called retirement. And that's a new level, a new experience to not have to punch the clock or sign in on the register or tapping on the computer, that you actually can live, in many cases, you can live your life for you. And then if you have grandchildren and great-grandchildren, they fit in this new life. And we talk about what we would like to do. A lot of my friends want to travel, because in that other level, that 40-year period of working, they may not have been able to fulfill some of that desire to see the world and meet people of different ethnicities and cultures and things of that nature. So we talk a lot about self-fulfillment, but still keeping in the center that thing called family, the nucleus, because they're the most important thing in our lives in many cases.
Well, Interestingly, what you didn't mention that we have in common, and Faith didn't mention it as we transition in life, we are both widows. And
Yes.
that's a transition that's tremendous. However, my experiences are very, very different. The things that you ask, does our generation talk about? I don't. And it might be because in my life, I never had that many friends like that. I am friendly with people. There are people who call themselves my friends, but it seems like from the time I can ever remember, my conversations were always about what is right in front of me. You know, when I was in high school, the conversation was college. When I was in college, the conversation was get a job. Once I got a job, the conversation is, do we stay here or do we move to a new job?
Right.
Once you start dating, well, you're going to get married. I mean, I never, except sometimes at church, when someone else has, or like now, you have put together this program. And so at church, sometimes there were programs to think about something, and then you sit around and talk about it. But if I call a friend, and I'm not one who calls a lot, I'm not on the phone a lot. People call me, and most of the time when they call me, it has to do with a crisis they are in and they need my help. Or as a matter of fact, this weekend, there was a crisis with a 90-year-old who's a good friend of mine who goes to my church. And I needed to take her a meal, and then we talked. And first time I saw her in a wheelchair. She's 93. She's always been spry, but she went in the hospital. Then another person called. Well, there was a death at our church of a very, very prominent elder. And so we talked about that. And then something happened. I learned something about our family that I'm not going to discuss on the air. But something that was like, what? Surprising.
I simultaneously feel excited and nervous.
But nobody's sick, nobody died.
Okay.
But just something that said, what? But just to call somebody and say, what are your plans and how do you chase joy, or how do you become resilient? I don't think I've had those conversations except for something like this.
Right.
Life has just been whatever is the next thing in life, that's what you talk about, and you pursue it and you go to the next thing. But to plan like 5 years ahead, even 2 years ahead, that has not been my experience. And maybe it's because I don't have that many friends like that. I'm friendly with people. And I have people who will call me their friend. Mm-hmm. But when we talk, we're talking about, girl, what's happening with your son? What can I do to help you? Right. The 2 of them are in prison. We got to raise money to get a lawyer. Right. That's what our conversations are.
Well, I can truly understand why they would perceive you as a friend, because a friend usually exists within the confines of being a helper one way or another in their life. And from what you're sharing with us between the 90-year-old and the incarceration situation, you're definite help to those individuals, and they feel close to you because of what you are providing. But going back to Arlett's question about what do we talk about in our age group, it depends on the lifestyle that we have chosen or have been given as to what we talk about. Because some of my friends, and like they say, if you got 5 people that you call friends, you got a good
You're
village,
lucky. Yes.
you
Yeah.
know, because a friend is a very special person,
Right.
as
And
all
with
of you
friendship,
know.
friendship,
And
there's
and
also this trust element too. And so,
Mhm.
yes,
clearly, Carol, people trust you, which is why they're
yes,
calling you about their kids being
their
locked up or if
personal.
they need help.
Mhm.
hmm but many people of our age group, as I was saying earlier, they do talk about their doctor's appointments and the results of those
Yeah,
appointments.
that's
Because
the
the older
conversation.
we get, the more
That's
medical
it.
situations we're apt to experience.
Yes.
And but they also talk about, like I said, plans for travel,
Yeah.
plans for getting together and having a brunch or a lunch or a dinner together to recap or plan for what we
Mhm.
hopefully have as a good future.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we have to balance the good with
Hmm.
the bad at this
Right.
point in time,
So you
and
guys
that's
said a couple things that stood out for me. So on faith, like when you were talking about how everything was kind of mapped out for you in your life, like you go to school and then you go to high school, you go to college, you get a job, and then you get to the point now you retire. Um, I think around the time when I kind of started this whole, chasing joy process, part of it was feeling like what was mapped out for me by society or whomever or whoever I took on this map, right? That was mapped
yes.
out.
hmm
It wasn't providing the fulfillment. And it was like, why am I unhappy? Like, like I've done all the things. I'm done the things I'm supposed to do. So like clearly I need something else.
Mhm.
So like that mapping out thing, I could kind of relate to that. And I Carol, what you said about not being too far ahead is something I've recently decided that I'm actively working on. I've talked about it in previous Chase and Joy show and also in the private group where people are watching on Facebook. I realized that I have a very difficult time being in the present. That if I allow myself, I can be 2, 3 years ahead worried about something. And I'll
Mhm.
give you an example. We've talked about the school that I think I want to send my son to after we're done with daycare. Now he's 3, newly 3. So the earliest this could happen is like 18 months from now, and it possibly can be more than 2 years away. But I was really starting to get really worried, like, well, what will I do for aftercare? And I had to like check myself, like, you need to chill out. Like, this is 2 years away. It's good to have an idea of what you want to do, but like I don't need to be not sleeping, worried about something. So I am definitely trying to work on being more present. And even Shane put in the comments, he said being in the moment. Yeah, like I'm working on that. And when I look to the side, that's when I'm looking at our comments from the group. Um, Marilyn says she thinks Aunt Carol's joy is helping others.
hmm
Okay.
hmm
So the next question that I was wondering, since you both have been very active in your faith, Aunt Faith's new book about faith, and Aunt Carol, your missionary work, and I think for the most part your almost day-to-day work, right? Um, how do you feel your faith has impacted your overall like happiness in your life?
Um, it's, you know, my faith is a part of my life. It's not like my faith impacts my life. It is my life. Everything I do. Um, my the religion, the organized religion that I'm a part of is actually a lifestyle. Some religions aren't. You live your life and you go to church, um, and then, but the religion that I embraced as a teenager It affects how I eat. It affects how I dress. It affects what I consider entertainment. It affects how I treat people. It affects what I do, what I read. And so I never think of my faith impacting my life. My faith is such a part of my life. It's just who I am. I say to Damir, my grandson, that when Christ is in your heart, you do think, you just do it. You don't have to plan that, I need to help somebody, or I need to abstain from doing certain things that could lead to problems later in life. Especially our family is, how some people are prone to addiction.
Mhm.
And our family is. I can go through generations. And so because we are prone to it, we have to stay away from it. But I say to him, when what you believe is really who you are and it's in your heart, you don't have to think about, am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? It's just who you are. So I don't even think of how my faith impacts my life. My faith is my life. Is that making sense?
Yes,
Mhm.
it is. So our faith, same question for you. How does your faith impact your overall happiness in your life?
Okay. It's the kind of ironic that you would ask that question because the book deals with your faith in your everyday life.
Mhm.
And I want to try to get this point. When, they have a phrase from the cradle up. Now they go so far back and say from the womb up. If you're exposed to certain ideologies, certain beliefs, if you're taught to trust in God, if you're taught to have confidence and conviction about anything that you do in life, it basically creates the person that you are to become. It's in my book, I have what I call the 5 pillars of faith, because I feel that faith is foundational.
Mhm.
You are built from the womb up by what you have been exposed to, and what people teach you about different indoctrinations and things of this nature. You either accept it or reject it. And that's at all levels of your life. You're constantly being introduced and exposed to doctrines and ideologies. And so when you say, does my faith impact my life? I have to agree with Aunt Carol that my faith is who I am.
Mhm.
I am a product of my beliefs, my convictions, my confidence, my ideologies, and my trust. So in that respect, I will say my faith does impact my life because my life is based on my faith.
So a couple comments we have an amen in there. Miss Lily says that she thinks it's good to have faith in your life to help you get through everyday life. And she
Absolutely.
said, in response to Aunt Carol, that yes, it makes a lot of sense when you ask, does it make sense? So I can kind of understand where both of you are coming from. I definitely resonate with Miss Lily's comment about helping you get through everyday life. So when I was thinking about like, okay, chasing joy, like, okay, well, so what are these things I did to have like more happiness? And and one of them was to lean in heavily to my faith, which, as you pointed out, is a part of who I am because it was, introduced to me in from the womb, right? As Aunt Faith was saying. And I've been through some challenging things, like we all have, and then most significantly, like losing my parents. And so my faith absolutely has gotten me through that. And then other things like, just, things like, okay, being unhappy at work. A lot of people have experienced that. And just knowing like, okay, well, God has a plan. So I'm here for a reason. Let me try, and there'll be another step, and I can just trust that God has something good for me.
There's that key word, trust.
Trust, yes.
That is so significant to how you can come up out of that dark hole that you might be in, because you trust and believe in the power of God the Father Almighty, that through it all, He will help you survive and thrive.
So I agree that faith is foundational, is why I decided it's one of the pillars of joy, because ultimately you have to believe, you have to have hope in something. Something that's bigger than you, because we don't have it all figured out. We don't know what we're doing a lot of the time. And we're trying things and praying and hoping for the best. So just you have to have something. And for me, like I'm a Christian, like you ladies. So for me, that's Jesus and God. But I definitely think it's essential. I feel like I personally don't know how someone could have like a happy life. And I don't mean like happy moments. I'm talking about, but in general, feeling like you have like a good, happy life if you don't have a source for your hope, you know? So that's kind of how
May I
it impacts
comment
me.
on that?
Yeah.
I have an expression that I use, and I guess it's the old adage, the fact that happiness is fleeting, it comes and goes. Mm-hmm. And so you make the most of those happy moments, because as sure as you're living the happiness, there is going to be some sadness, because that's just life. Yep. And we've all got that to go through. None of us are allowed to escape moments of sadness. Yep. But when we have those moments of sadness because of our sincere and intense faith, we know that it's just a moment in time, and that happiness is on the horizon if we just hold on.
Mm-hmm. With that question, I think of our past president, 45. And he's a good example of almost anything you talk about. But you look at his life, a billionaire, but he's not happy. He doesn't have joy in his life. Been through 3 wives and still cheating on the 3rd one, and still doesn't have joy in his life. He has children, and I've read a lot of books on him. Children somewhat afraid of him. And the relation that it looked like they had when he was first campaigning, the books that I've read and some things that I've seen on the news, it shows that he doesn't have joy in his children, because he is looking in all the wrong places. He's looking at women, he's looking for money, he's looking for houses and land, he's looking for power. He can't handle losing the election. What he doesn't know, what he's missing is faith.
Yep.
Joy doesn't come from the things.
Mhm.
It's deeper than that. And when he first, said something about 2 Corinthians, the world knew. The
Or
world,
Right.
holding the
the world
Bible
knew.
upside down in front of the church.
And then he was holding the Bible upside
Back,
down.
yes.
Yeah, but
Oh
all of the
gosh.
things he has, and he has already, and he's still chasing because he lacks the essential thing that will bring joy and peace and love. And he would be content, and he wouldn't have to stage an insurrection. And he's planning, he says he goes back into office in August.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
that's what
He's
he
saying
said.
that. But that's a perfect example of a person who has almost everything that people in the world go after
Materialistic
bring
things. And
that he thinks will bring joy, but it doesn't. And the
Right.
thing that he's lacking any kind of faith.
Yep.
yes.
And it's amazing that the evangelical world is following him.
Sanity.
It is.
But see, Donald Trump is the person he is today because of his father and his treatment of Donald and the siblings when he was a young boy. And he never had the love that he needed to help him with his faith building. He never had the direction from his parents for that faith building. And the Hartie children, along with thousands of others in this country or in the world, came up with families that taught almost from the womb up about the power of faith in their lives. That was not a part of Donald's upbringing.
Right.
His father was all about the Benjamins, as P. Diddy would say.
Yeah.
He wasn't about church and teaching brotherly love. Because right now they say that Donald Trump, he'll throw anybody under the bus. They said they waiting on the day when he throws Melania under the bus and his children under the bus behind all these cases that he has against him. His father taught him that nothing is more important or no one is more important.
So the comments we have, Shane said that that's very true. And then Marilyn says that Aunt Letty's also watching. And she said Aunt Letty says that his family probably had no faith base in his home.
Right.
So Aunt Faith, you bring up a really good point about, Donald Trump turning out how he has largely because of, his father and his upbringing.
Hollow.
Yeah. So what I wanted to know is who has impacted your lives, maybe in your upbringing or maybe if you're already an adult, but who has inspired you the most when it comes to your spiritual growth?
Well, that was a question in Faith's book. And just read it recently, what I said to her. There have been so many people, so many. I can't list one. Of course, it starts with my mother. And it wasn't what she said. My mother did not take us to church. She didn't read the Bible. She didn't sing the spiritual songs. But the way she treated people, the way she treated us, it was just amazing. She just had this extra sense. There was a spirituality about her that was so genuine and so real. And now my father, on the other hand, he was, and as some of you know, he was connected with the mafia. So his lifestyle was criminal, but he was the one who brought the family into church. And so when my mother embraced the church, then everything she had already been living became then how she talked. But then beyond my parents, there were other family members. My grandmother, Mama Dennis, she was another one. Just the way she lived, the way she treated people. It was just amazing. And then there were teachers I had, and there were pastors, and I'll tell you, lately, Faith's book, this book I just finished reading, I'm still growing. I'm not there yet, and this book has had an impact. And so I can't just say one person. I'd like to say my mother, but when I realized if my father didn't get us in the church, and then if we didn't go to certain schools that were faith-based schools, and then if we didn't run into other people, I mean, there's just been so many, I can't count them, I can't name them. I can say the latest one was this book by Faith. It has had such an impact on me. It has had.
Wow, thank you. And I say that thank you from the bottom of my heart, because Carol, you are, as I told you earlier, you are a reader, and you have so much to compare it to, that when you make a statement like that, it really has, or less, impact my emotions about the contents of it. And I thank you for all you've done to help me through this process, because you were a key editor in this process. And after having been so close to the birth of it, I didn't realize that it could still impact you as you're sharing with us right now. But thank you.
So Aunt Faith,
And-
who
okay.
do you feel has inspired you the most in your spiritual growth?
Well, I was birthed by Betty Luella Woodland. That was my mother. And she definitely influenced, guided, directed, and indoctrinated me to the power of our Heavenly Father, Jesus, and his teaching. And I went to, what do you call it, Sunday school and church from a toddler up. And my grandmother, Luella Woodland, raised my mother, Betty Webb, to go to church too. And so it's been like a generational type experience. And they, without a doubt, have been the women that have most affected and directed me in my path as far as Christianity and the power of God and the power of prayer. They were both extremely praying women. And even though my mother could flip a script and be hard and cold, she had that faith in God that brought her through so many trying and difficult situations in life. So I would definitely say her. And then like Carol said all those other people, the Sunday school teachers and the teachers and the playground director and the neighbors. And so it's been a host of people. So I guess there's truth and it takes a village.
Yeah.
I want to mention one more person because she's on the line, and she's impacted me so much and still does. And that's my sister Letty.
Mm-hmm.
Just the kind of person she is.
Mm-hmm.
And what she does for me and how she continues to pour into me.
Amen.
She is the assistant mother for Mia, Marilyn, and Damir.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them go to her in a way that we went to my mother.
All right.
She does that for them. And Damir, who's young, that's his go-to person when he needs Almita Dennis Hartie.
Okay.
She's there, and
She's
she's
there.
there, and she still impacts my life.
That's lovely.
That's some wonderful.
For
I can see
me,
that.
so I'll answer. So for me, it was my dad, because he introduced me to faith, to Christianity, in such a way that I didn't even know he was doing it. So he would tell us these stories, and then when I got older, like he would say, "Oh," and I remember saying like, "Oh, tell me about Joseph and the coat of many colors." And then later on, I was like, "Oh, that's a Bible story." I had no clue. He would just he made it fun. And I remember I would go to church with him on Sabbath, on Saturdays, and I loved it. Now, as an adult looking back, I know I loved it for a few, mostly because my brothers weren't there. No offense. But it was like time we got to just be me and my dad. You know, so it was like our special time, and we would go to church, and then we would go to McDonald's, so which is always fun for little kids. So it just introduced Christianity and faith to me in such a pleasant and positive way. And then how he treated people, similar like what you were saying about your mom, who was also his mom. So that makes a lot of sense. How he would treat people and care for people, and his spirit of forgiveness, because he would know some pretty bad people. You mentioned some mafia ties and things like that. But he was not judgmental. And if you messed up, you didn't have to be afraid. There wasn't going to be any guilt. It was like, okay, well, let's fix it and let's move on, kind of thing. So my dad definitely has been most impactful to me, for me, in terms of faith. We have some comments. Let's see. Miss Lily said it was her grandmother who took her to church, and her sister took her and her sister to church every Sunday. Janice says, wow, this sounds like her grandmother. She's very loving, treated everyone with respect, and she taught her a lot about how she lived. Marilyn says she thinks Mia and her grew up knowing about faith. They went to church school most of their life. Mia says, yes, Aunt Letty is like a second mom to me and the rock in this family. Marilyn says, Aunt Letty said the person who she admires the most is her sister, Carol. So it's reciprocated. Hi, Miss Pat. I see Miss Pat is watching. And then Marilyn says, in you guys' house, you say we want to be like Uncle Billy, who was my dad. So that's wonderful. So
actually, when we say we want to be, that's our goal. That's our goal. We want to be like Uncle Billy. And he was, of all of us, too. Well, my mother was there, but the person most like her was Uncle Billy. And I'll tell you and then it comes down. And then there's Shane. Then I heard Jane say some things about Joshua. And I said, he got the gene too? But there's some beautiful things that have been passed down through our family.
Yeah. So my last kind of somewhat, I don't want to say serious question, but my last kind of serious question is, what advice would you like to share with women my age? So here's your chance without us without having to feel like, well, I don't know if they want to hear it. Whatever you want us to know, here's your moment.
Well, let me say, because I thought about this ahead, some practical things, women your age, and I'm realizing if you don't have your life insurance and your health insurance, you need to get it now before you start having a lot of serious health problems. Because when you have pre-existing conditions,
Right.
then it gets a little tricky with your life
Very
insurance.
tricky.
And so that's one thing. And then save a part when you get paid. And a part of my faith says, the very first thing is my tithe. Now, right now, I support 2 churches. So I send half my tithe to one church and half my tithe to another church. That comes off the top.
Right.
Before I pay any bills, I give my tithe. And I'll tell you, giving that tithe is, the Bible says, bring ye all the tithe into the storehouse, that you will be blessed with a blessing that you won't even be able to count your blessings. And I have experienced that in life, that I give my tithe and then I save something. Whenever I get some money, a part of it goes into some kind of savings. And I actually forget I have that savings. I forget it. So when somebody says, well, do you have this or do you have that? And I'm generous with people, but I forget I have the savings. I don't go into that. And if a bill comes up unexpectedly, I figure out a way to pay it without going to the savings, because you have to have emergency. One of the things, now I talk about my brother, Billy, as being the one who was most like my mother. But I'm going to tell you, the wise one was Alan. And something he says, and he said it so much, he says, you know how to play Monopoly. You've been around the board more than once. You know what's in the cards. You know there will always be a card that says something happens. So you shouldn't be, that's not even an emergency. When you go to work, leave early enough, because you know there's going to be traffic problems. It's in the cards. And so, you know, you can't take whatever you get in your hand and spend it all. You've got to have an emergency fund just for emergency. And then another thing Alan taught me, he said, when you get paid, you pay your bills, and then you take the amount that's your discretionary money, and he said, get it in cash, put it in an envelope, and when that envelope is empty, you have no more money. You don't take away from what you're going to do. So the counsel about how you handle your money, and money is not everything. But I was in a meeting recently, and somebody said, money is not everything in life, but it's up there with oxygen.
If you don't have it, you're in trouble.
You're going to be in big, big trouble. And so my advice would be, take care of your insurance, take care of your money. 2 other things. One is, whatever you're searching for, and you just feel like something's missing in my life, or you're chasing joy, or you're chasing something, whatever you think you're missing, find somebody else who you can give that thing to. If there's somebody who wishes somebody would, you're wishing, I wish I would be invited to something, I wish I could go out, then you invite somebody.
Well, what if you wish it for a husband? That's me. How could I do that?
Well, you know what? And the thing about husbands, you're
A
not
good
ready.
one.
You're not ready for a husband
Mhm,
until you are satisfied with yourself.
mhm.
When you feel like you can really be happy and you can take care of life alone, then you're ready. But Now, you know another thing about your father. He wasn't all that, he wasn't into marriage, right?
Right. I know
He
that.
didn't encourage, because most marriages are not good.
Right.
The happiest people in the world are single women. So if you think you're not happy now and you want a husband, be careful.
Well, I don't think I'm not happy. I'm
Okay.
good.
But when you feel that
Yes.
you can handle life and you're satisfied, then certain things, you have to go to the places where good husbands might be found, places where good husbands might be found.
Mhm.
I have to say, I don't talk about my marriage a lot,
Mhm.
because of all the marriages in the world, I didn't want to get married. I did not want to get married because I didn't see happy ones.
Mhm.
My parents' marriage, my mother was such a good person, but that marriage wasn't the best. I looked at my grandparents' marriage. Mm-mm. I looked at aunts and uncles. I didn't see it. And then I finally, saw a couple of people whose marriages seemed to be okay. So I wasn't anxious to be married, but I got married because of, at that moment, I'm in love with my husband. I want to be with him. And I have spiritual foundation to my life that I just can't live with somebody. And somebody can't spend the night at my house
Right.
unless we are married. And so I met Ray and we were married within a year.
Yeah.
But do you know, we did not have a wedding. We did not have a wedding because I didn't believe it would last. I said, I'm marrying you because I don't want to live in sin, but I haven't seen a good marriage. And therefore, we were prepared to not, we didn't have a wedding because we did not want to say to death do you part. Because I said I was happy before I got married. And as soon as this goes bad, I'm out of here. But amazingly, he was the most unselfish person I ever knew.
So it's funny you say that. You said that just as Shane typed a comment, we're not ready for marriage until we can truly give of ourselves.
Mhm.
That was very timely.
But I don't talk about my marriage because I don't know a marriage that was better than mine. And I didn't want to make other people jealous. So I didn't talk about it. We had people, and you can't have people live with you if you're not getting along.
Right.
And I counted, we had in our life, we had over 44 people who lived with us, different periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
And they never heard, they didn't hear us, we didn't argue. Ray and I had two disagreements. Now there were times when Mia would say, Mommy and Daddy, stop fussing. Well, we were talking about political things. And she didn't realize we're not arguing. In those days, we were talking about Kennedy, when we were talking about Johnson, and we were, because he worked on Capitol Hill. So we were all into politics. And so we would be talking about political things and what the news media was saying. And our conversations would get exciting. And she would think, stop fussing, but we did not fuss. We agreed on almost everything. We agreed on finances. We agreed on spiritual things. We even agreed on politics, even though Mia thought it was different. But we had such a wonderful marriage. But we didn't go into it with any false expectations. I didn't believe that I'm now Cinderella marrying Prince Charming.
Right.
And he didn't think that he was getting somebody to take care of house and cooking and clothes. He didn't go into it. We didn't go into it with those expectations. And we didn't think we would stay married that long, but it was a wonderful marriage. But most marriages aren't. Most aren't. And for those people who just want to get married, And I can understand it, because if you see a good marriage and you say, wow, I'd like to have that.
Right.
And even in the marriages that aren't good, they have good moments, they have good times, and you have a partner. And so, but whatever you want, when it comes to marriage, that might be a little different, but other things,
Yeah.
try to give, if there's somebody who's lonely, try to bring some friendship into their lives. If there's somebody who just needs to talk to somebody, or you need to talk to, find somebody. But you know, when the Bible says, cast your bread upon the water, and it comes back after many days. So when you give to others, it comes back to you. And I always say, when you cast your bread upon the water, it comes back cake. You, whenever you give of yourself, you get so much more. And so that's my advice. Give to others, get your insurance, save money, because you don't want money to be your be all, end all, but it'll take you down fast when you don't have any.
Okay. All right. Faith, your turn. What advice would you like to share?
But I only have a couple things. Ditto to everything Aunt Carol said. And be a planner. For if you fail to plan, young people, you must plan to fail. You understand what I'm saying? You need a plan to execute and to achieve your goals. And if you fail to have a plan, and you need to have a plan A and B and maybe a C. But if you don't have a good plan for whatever the activity or event or goal or objective is in your life, then plan to fail. Because you need steps. In the Bible, it says, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. So order your steps as it relates to any given goal, objective, or purpose that you may feel. Now, also, the second thing is the visions. As I started out, I talked about all through life, you go through levels, blah, blah, blah. A vision or visions are needed, and that connects to the plan. You have a vision of what you want or what you need or what you expect out of life. You envision it, you plan it, you execute, and then hopefully you will reap the benefits of the plan. So, young people, I feel that along with what Aunt Carol said about the insurance and all that, that is so true. I really hope that you do not go down a haphazard road when it comes to whatever you feel is an important vision in your mind and in your heart. So basically, that's what I would recommend for the young people or the people of your
I love
generation.
that, Faith, because you gave me the perfect plug for my vision board in a box that people can buy, and you can craft your vision and look at it every day as you're developing your plan and ordering your steps. I do love that.
Thank you.
All right. So the next thing we're going to do, lighten it up a little bit. We're going to play a game, a quick game before we end things out for the night. So give me 1 second to share my screen so that you guys can see the game. So the game we're going to play. So both of you spent many years being teachers. So the game we are playing tonight is famous people we didn't know were teachers. And we're going to guess. Well, I know the answers. You guys and those who are watching in our audience are going to guess who these famous people are. So the first one, oh, and let me move my little box out the way. The first one is this actor who played a character that has a statue at the Philadelphia Art Museum taught gym.
I know who it is.
The boxer.
Uh-huh.
Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, the boxer.
Rocky.
Correct.
Yes, yes.
Sylvester Stallone. He taught gym. I think it was overseas. He was studying in, I think it was Spain, and he taught gym over there. People in the comments were guessing. They guessed Sylvester Stallone as well. That was an easy one.
Okay, that's really
It was.
To start out with, especially because we're all from Philly.
Yeah.
All right. The next one is, this is another one, could be an easy one, possibly. This 80s icon, known for wearing lots of gold chains, pities the fool who didn't pay attention when he was a teacher at a vocational school in Chicago.
Oh, I can't think of his name, but I can see him with that mohawk down the middle. And all
Yep.
Mr. T.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
People are guessing Mr. T in the comments
Okay.
as well. Let me see. Yep, Mr. T.
Yeah, there he is with that hair and the chains.
Yes. I really did not know these people were teachers until I did my research.
Didn't either.
I didn't either.
All right. This actor, known for his roles as a small town sheriff and a folksy lawyer, taught music and drama at as a high school teacher in North Carolina.
That's the one who is Matlock. What's his name? What's his name? He's Matlock.
I can't
Andy
remember.
Griffith.
Andy Griffith. I'm saying Matlock.
I just recently, in the last couple of years, start watching the Andy Griffith show. Here and there, the reruns, the black and white reruns would come on, and I'm like, this is nice and calm. Nice and calm to watch. People were guessing Andy Griffith as well in the comments. All right. This is another easy one. This politician was breaking glass ceilings as one of only 2 female faculty when she taught criminal law at the University of Arkansas. This was long before the deplorables took so much interest in her emails.
Clinton.
Hillary Clinton.
Yes. Maryland guessed Hillary Clinton as well right away. I didn't know she taught either.
I didn't either.
All right. This former president took up teaching after his presidency, and people travel from thousands of miles away for his Sunday school classes.
The old one. Peanut farmer. The peanut farmer.
Billy,
Carter. Jimmy Carter.
Jimmy
Carter.
Yep.
Jimmy
Carter. All right.
He was the peanut farmer.
I heard. I don't know a lot about him other than he
Mhm.
seems to have a good reputation
Oh,
these days.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
so
I haven't heard much bad about Jimmy Carter.
Mhm.
All right, this next one. This broadcaster who was described as the biggest star in the history of Fox News before being terminated for sexual misconduct, taught English and history at a Miami school in the
Oh, I know who you are,
1970s.
and I can't think of his name. Can't think of his name. I can see him. I can
Mhm.
see him, but I can't.
I'm gonna do Fox 7.
Somebody says Matt Laurie. That's a good guess, but that's not
Mm-mm,
it.
mm-mm,
It's not
mm-mm.
Matt Laurie.
Okay,
He
say
was
3
never
names.
on Fox.
Give 3 names, and I'll tell you which one.
Ooh, I don't even know. Everybody's saying Matt Laurie. I don't even know how you say his name, but it's not him. He did get fired for misconduct as well, but I don't think
Yeah.
he was on Fox News.
No, he wasn't. Never.
He was on CBS, I think. I can't even think of 3 of the Fox News people to
All right,
give you
that's what I'm
guesses.
saying. I'm not a Fox person,
Uh.
so I don't know.
Yes, me neither.
But I remember when he got fired,
Yes,
and
that was
he was
big news.
big. I mean, he
Mhm.
brought in a lot of money.
Yeah.
People in our studio audience, our virtual audience don't know either. Janice said, "Oh man." Bill O'Reilly.
There he is. O'Reilly. That's him. That's
O'Reilly.
it. Bill O'Reilly.
Yes.
Yeah, there he is. I could see him.
All right. This former president taught constitutional law and race
Obama.
theory for 12 years, and he has a school named after him. Correct.
Barack.
Barack Obama. All right.
There's several schools named after him. There's one
Oh,
here in
really?
our county, in Prince
Oh, I
George's.
didn't even know that.
Yeah, there's several around the country.
Uh-huh.
So let me go back. I think I missed some of our comments. I don't think it's going to let me go back. Oh, it's not letting me go back. If you guys had comments or questions that you want to share before we close out, leave them in the comments in our Facebook group. So for those who watch this later on YouTube, the show is live streamed through Facebook. So if you want to actually watch the shows as they're happening, you're going to want to join the private Chasing Joy Facebook group.
Oh, while we're waiting, I just wanted to remind everyone that the book will be available on Amazon in about 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I will keep everyone posted. And Shane, I have a copy that will be coming to you in the very near future.
Yes,
and I
some
want to
people
thank
had
everyone that contributed.
some people had asked that in the comments about where they could get the book.
Yeah.
I think there were some comments, people saying that they also tithe regularly. I'm trying to remember what else was there. I don't know. Facebook's not cooperating with me right now, not letting me go back, see everybody's comments. Our last 2 questions from me. I always ask these final 2 questions to all my guests as kind of a nod to the Chasing Joy newsletter that I used to send out quarterly a few years ago. Kind of my signature questions to everyone were, what is the last movie you saw and what was the last trip you went on? And you can define watched and trip as broadly as you like.
Well, this afternoon I watched The Fighter, excellent movie with Mark Wahlberg and Christian Bale. And the last trip I went on was just before Memorial Day. We went up to the Poconos up near Lake Harmony for a little breather, the first trip semi-post pandemic.
Right. It's kind of
Okay.
over, but it's really not.
Yeah, I know.
Well, the last movie I watched is actually, it was today on TV. There's a series, it's in its second season. It's called The Chosen. It is fantastic. You can get the first season on YouTube. And it's finished. The second season started Easter, but it's the life of Christ. And it is, even if you're not a religious person, this production of the life of Christ is amazing to make those biblical characters really come alive, but especially the person who's playing the role of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
It makes him so loving, so kind, and so humble, and yet so powerful at the same time. To see how humility is powerful. That series called The Chosen.
Okay.
And the last trip is hard to remember the last trip because we're planning a trip in 2 weeks. No, less than 2 weeks. We're doing a road trip. We're traveling by van across country through the northern route down the west coast, coming back to southern route. And then after that, a couple of weeks after that, Faith and I and Aunt Letty, we are going to Hilton Head.
Nice.
Those are trips coming up because I haven't been able to go on a trip. I think the last trip was with Rissy when she was in Tennessee and she was sick. And I drove by myself to Tennessee to be with her for 2 weeks. And then we drove back, and then everybody got to visit, got to see her and visit with her while she was on the East Coast.
Rissy
Because
is
that
another
last
aunt.
time was, I think, around Labor Day weekend, and
Yes.
everyone came up, and that was the last time we shared with her.
Right, right.
Rissy is another aunt of mine. She has passed away. Well, if you guys have any questions that we didn't cover, now is your chance to pop them in the chat before we close out. Shane said, okay, great, thank you, about putting his book aside, I believe. Miss Lily, she said, what a surprise about, I think that was about Obama having schools named after him. I didn't know about so many. I just knew about the one that came up in my research. I don't think we have any more questions coming up. So I know, Carol, you don't really do social media, but I did see that your book, Julian, is available on Amazon. So I will post a link to that in our group if anyone wants to check out your fiction writing. And at Faith, you just told us that your book, I'll hold it up again. The brand new book is available on Amazon right now.
We'll be available.
Will be available
in about 2 weeks.
As soon as it's available, I will post a link in the Facebook group. And by the time this is on YouTube, it will be available, and I will have the links in the comment section. Marilyn asked the question, how many years had both of you been married?
That's something else we had in common.
Okay.
We have it in common. Same amount. I read yours in the book. Same amount before our husbands
47 years.
47 before my husband passed away.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And that's crazy. Y'all had so much in common. Like, I knew y'all had things in common, which is why I was like, oh, it'd be good to have them on together. But when I really thought about it, I was like, oh, it's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot.
Miss Lily said, thank you both ladies for your advice on faith and relationships.
You're welcome.
All right. And with that, we will close out the show. Thank you both for being on. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
Yes, I learned a lot, and We'll see everybody next time. Bye.
All right, continue to chase your joy.